Before the Baltimore Orioles go to sleep at night, they check under their beds for Gleyber Torres, the O's worst nightmare. Aaron Hicks walked with the bases loaded to force in the tie-breaking run in the ninth inning, and the New York Yankees defeated the Orioles 6-5 Thursday to complete a four-game sweep. The star of the series, Mr. Torres, who actually had the off day Thursday. The Yankee shortstop hit 2 home runs against the O's on Wednesday, bringing his season total against Baltimore to 10 dingers. Here's what Gleyber had to say afterward about the club's 5-game winning streak and 32-17 record atop the American League East. Open quote, "So many people called us a AAA team after all the injuries. Well, this AAA team is in first place, indeed." The Bronx Bombers are in Kansas City tonight to begin a weekend series. Carlos Gomez lost his shoe during an early dash, then hit a go-ahead 3-run homer in the 8th inning that helped the New York Mets overcome a Nationals comeback that started after Washington manager Dave Martinez's heated ejection for a 6-4 victory. The Mets are streaking too, folks. Juan Lagares hit a go-ahead 3-run double off Washington closer Sean Doolittle. Rajah Davis capped the 6-run 8th inning with a 3-run homer and his first at bat for the Mets. And New York rallied to beat the Nationals 6-1 Wednesday night. The Amazons have won 4 in a row and swept the 4-game series with the Nationals. Criticized for not running hard, Mets second baseman Robinson Cano strained his left quadriceps hustling up the first baseline Wednesday night against Washington. Of course he did. The Mets announced Thursday that Yoenis Cespedes underwent surgery and is expected to miss the remainder of the 2019 season. Cespedes recently suffered multiple fractures in his right ankle after falling at his ranch in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Presumably, Thursday's procedure was tied to that injury, although the Mets press release did not specify anything beyond the simple fact that Cespedes had surgery. Now 33 years of age, Cespedes has only played in 119 games for the Mets since re-signing a 4-year, $110 million contract in free agency. That deal wasn't viewed as any sort of albatross at the time, but injuries have turned the deal into a regrettable one for the Mets. Yankees are still dealing with their share of injuries too. CC Sabathia's bulky and bothersome right knee has landed him on the team's still full injured list, a place Giancarlo Stanton also remains after expecting to return this past week. He injured his left calf this time, of course. Behind the microphone for the last New York Rangers championship in 1994, John Davidson is now front and center to try and parade the Stanley Cup down Broadway again. Davidson recalled 1994 as one of the best times of his life, and after moving from broadcasting to the front office with St. Louis and Columbus, he has returned home to oversee the Rangers' rebuilding process. Davidson is now team president and wants to be the soul of the organization by charting the right course to return New York to prominence. Time for some quick hitters from around the world of sports. The New York Liberty have their home opener tonight in Westchester at the County Center. They welcome Indiana for an 8 p.m. tip-off. On the NBA playoff hardwood, I may have been wrong about the Milwaukee Bucks. After winning the first 2 games, it's been all Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors ever since. The Raptors now lead the series 3-2. They won 105-99 Thursday night. Leonard is averaging 31.4 points per game over these 17 playoff games, shooting 41.1% from 3 and 51.2% overall, grabbing 8.4 rebounds. That's incredible. If Toronto makes the finals, the Golden State Warriors will be coming off an historically long 9-day layoff. However, it probably won't be long enough for star Kevin Durant. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson and Andre Iguodala still make Golden State extremely talented. Those players fit well together. The competition will get harder against the Bucks or Raptors, but the Warriors can still prevail without the injured Durant. He could be back mid-series. In other NBA news, shout out to Bronx boy Kemba Walker. He made the All-NBA third team. Thursday was important for several players as it determined whether they would be eligible for a designated veteran extension, better known as the Supermax, this summer by making one of the 3 All-NBA teams. Dame Lillard and Walker qualified, while Bradley Beal and Klay Thompson did not. Kemba is going to cash in. Cha-ching! The max contract is projected to be worth $221 million over 5 years. Will the Hornets offer it? I don't know. Would he accept it? I don't know. Difficult decisions for both sides as he enters free agency this summer. During a speaking event on Wednesday, New York Knicks president Steve Mills claimed that all-star forward Kristaps Porzingis demanded a trade away from the franchise. Mills said that Porzingis gave New York 7 days to deal him or he would leave the NBA and return to Europe. Well, that explains that. It took a while, but the Boston Bruins, idle since May 16th after sweeping the Carolina Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Finals, learned they will face St. Louis in the Stanley Cup Finals after the Blues knocked out the San Jose Sharks in 6 games. These two teams have some playoff history, too. Boston and St. Louis clashed during the 1970 Stanley Cup Finals, which featured Bruins legend Bobby Orr winning the series in overtime of Game 4 with his iconic flying goal. Boston has won 2 more championships since then, most recently in 2011, while St. Louis has never won a Stanley Cup in the 51-year history of the franchise, tying them with the Toronto Maple Leafs for the longest titleless streak in the National Hockey League. Not only have the Blues never won a ring, they are 0-12 in the Stanley Cup Finals. I'll be rooting for them. Underdog stories, gotta love them. In local news from the hockey side, the New York Islanders re-signed star center Brock Nelson before he could even test free agency. Nelson on Thursday agreed to terms on a $36 million 6-year contract through the 2024-25 season. Nelson scored 25 goals and set career highs with 28 assists and 53 points last season to help the Islanders make the playoffs. In NASCAR, Tony Stewart, the 3-time Cup champion who took NASCAR by storm after transitioning from open-wheel racing, was elected to the NASCAR Hall of Fame's class of 2020 on Wednesday. Stewart's election comes 2 days after his 48th birthday. Joining Stewart in the class of 2020 is Joe Gibbs. Gibbs is now a Hall of Famer in both NASCAR and the NFL. Gibbs, decades after being selected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a head coach, this time he enters NASCAR's Hall as an owner. He's been an owner since 1992. Since then, he has accumulated 4 Cup titles, 5 Xfinity titles, and 157 wins. He was elected in his 3rd year on the ballot. Rain threatens the Indy 500 party. Despite a dire forecast for a day-long downpour on Sunday, there is no contingency plan to bump the Indy 500 over to a Monday, Indianapolis Motor Speedway officials said on Thursday. Only 3 times, 1905, 1986, and 1997, and 102 runnings, has rain forced the Indy 500 to be postponed and rescheduled, while on 2 other occasions, 1967, 1973, it was started before finishing on another day. Big weekend for motor racing, of course. Formula One is in Monaco and mourning the death of a legend. Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton was fastest for mourning Mercedes in both Monaco Grand Prix practice sessions on Thursday. The Briton excused media duties following the death of Mercedes non-executive chairman and triple world champion Niki Lauda lapped the treacherous street circuit with a fastest time in the afternoon on those soft tires. More on Lauda in the C-list. In golf, Tiger commits to play in next week's Memorial Tournament. Tiger Woods, who missed the cut at last week's PGA Championship after an extended break on Thursday, committed to playing in next week's Memorial Tourney in Ohio ahead of the June 13th-16th U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. Following his April victory at the Masters, where Woods won his 15th major title and first since 2008, he chose not to play again until this year's 2nd major, where he missed the cut by 1 stroke. In college hoops, Juwan Howard was officially hired by Michigan, his alma mater, as the head basketball coach on Wednesday, accepting a 5-year deal starting at $2 million annually. Howard, a Miami Heat assistant coach, became the front-runner for the Michigan job after Providence's Ed Cooley withdrew from consideration Tuesday and signed a multi-year contract extension to stay with the Friars. Howard, of course, was a star of Michigan's fabled Fab Five. In the NFL, New York Jets' new head coach, Adam Gase, whose relationship with Le'Veon Bell is already under a microscope, insisted Thursday that he's excited to have the star running back on the team. Gase dismissed speculation he's interested in trading Bell before the season. The Gase-Bell pairing became an issue last week when the team fired general manager Mike McCagnon, who lasted only 4 months with Gase. Sources said Gase objected to the Bell signing because of the steep price tag, a 4-year, $52.5 million contract. Oh, the Jets. The Jets. And on a final sports roundup note, congrats go out to the Fordham baseball team. The Rams are doing some job in the A-10 tourney, which is being played at Rose Hill this year. Fordham defeated Richmond 7-6 in 10 innings in a comeback Wednesday and followed that with a 2-1 victory on Thursday. Those are the headlines. We hit the C-list to pay tribute to the legend of Niki Lauda. My all-time favorite Formula One driver shares a birth date with yours truly, and sadly he passed away on my mom's birthday this past week, May 20th. F1 is mourning the passing of Lauda, who died Monday at 70 years old. Lauda once said, "One of my favorite quotes, from success you learn absolutely nothing. From failure and setbacks, conclusions can be drawn. That goes for private life as well as your career. The worst day of Lauda's life, he always said, was not August 1st, 1976. On that day, he was the reigning Formula One race car driver in the world and seemed well on his way to winning his second consecutive championship. But on the second lap of the German Grand Prix, his Ferrari swerved out of control through a guardrail, struck an embankment, ricocheted back onto the track, and caught fire. Two other cars slammed into him, and for almost a full minute, Mr. Lauda was trapped inside the cockpit of his race car, engulfed in flames before other drivers could pull him out. Much of his face and scalp and half of one ear were burned off. His lungs and bronchial passages were seared from inhaling flames and burning plastic. Few expected him to survive, and a priest actually gave him last rites. He did stay alive, only to experience an even worse day 15 years later. By then, Mr. Lauda had retired from racing and was the chief executive of Lauda Air, an airline he would build into the second largest in his native Austria. In May 1991, a Lauda Air flight crashed soon after taking off in Bangkok, killing all 223 people on board. No story of Nicky's life better summarizes what sort of man he was than the crash in which Lauda Air Flight 004 from Bangkok to Austria perished on May 26, 1991, when an engine on that Boeing 767 deployed reverse thrust on its own accord. He took on Boeing, threatening that if they did not make a full statement about the cause of the incident to fly a 767 over Seattle and demonstrate that it was not, after all, safe to select reverse thrust in flight. By the time he got back to his hotel, Boeing had surrendered. Lauda came back from the depths of hell in F1 racing to be a champion again. Niki Lauda proves that it's not about how many times you fall, it's about how many times you get back up again. That's what this country is all about. Enjoy the holiday weekend. Happy Memorial Day. That's your sports. I'm Bobby C. More open after this.